Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F-words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/zip to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Your warmer from the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends as we've got Tanner Kern aboard. He does such great work over at the Ride the Line podcast along with DraftKings, and we're going to chat with him about some of the impactful moves that we saw at the trade deadline. Additionally, we're going to be chatting with him about what we've all got on the slate for Sunday. He does such an amazing job of taking a look at this great game of baseball, so going to be great to have him aboard in segment number 2. In the final segment, I'm going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this baseball Sunday as we touch them all. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one or two ways we all fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, the name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered by EdgeBoost. EdgeBoost is making sure that bettors are able to have access to their funds whenever and wherever they want. 100% of gambling transactions do get approved, and when you go to edgeboost.bet, type in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That'll get you a dollar for dollar match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Saturday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
It's been up, down, all around for the New York Yankees, and the Yankees, they lose another game on Saturday as they fall to the Miami Marlins just by a count of 2-0. As for the Miami Marlins, they've actually been a really good home over team over the last 2 seasons, but we've been beginning to see them play quite a few unders here over the last few weeks, as overall for the season, 49 overs, 58 unders, and 2 pushes. And for the Yankees, Cam Schlittler wasn't bad in this one. He gives up 2 runs in 5 innings, albeit a pair of solo runs to Augustin Ramirez. 16th and 17th home runs of the campaign. Yuri Perez was just better. 6 scoreless innings. Ronnie Enriquez, Tyler Phillips, Calvin Fauché lend a scoreless inning. And for the Yankees, Jake Bird, Luke Weaver, Tim Hill, they're all able to give you a scoreless inning. If you had the under in this one, this is a relatively brutal one, as the Rangers have been one of your best under teams in all of baseball. As now they stand with 46 overs, 64 unders, and 2 pushes. And the Seattle Mariners, by the way, have been one of your better over teams in all baseball this far this season, as they are now up to 58 overs, 49 unders, and 5 pushes. 6-4 the final, as this was a game that was 2-2 after 9 innings, and then they both put up a 2 spot in the 10th inning, and then you got more scoring in the 11th, as Merrill Kelly, solid in his first start with the Rangers, 5 2/3 innings, he allows 2 runs. From there, Sean Armstrong gets an out of the bullpen scoreless. Danny Kalum, Phil Matone, Cole Winn, they all lend a scoreless inning, but you did have 2 runs given up in 2/3 of an inning by Cole Winn, one of which was earned, and you had from there 1 1/3 inning scoreless by the new reliever and Luis Carvalho to be able to get the job done. And for Mr. Garcia to give up home run in the 10th to Randy Arozarena, 22nd home run in the campaign for Luis Castillo. He gives up 2 runs in 4 1/3 innings. He did allow a bomb in this one to Kyle Higashioka, 7th home run season. From there, the Seattle Mariners bullpen was pretty solid. Carlos Vargas, 1 2/3 innings scoreless. Edward Bizarro, Gabe Spire, Andres Munoz lend a scoreless inning. Matt Brash does give up 2 runs, one of which was earned in extras. Casey Lugumina, 2 runs, one of which was earned, give it up in the 11th inning in a 3rd of an inning. And then Caleb Ferguson, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. you had yourself a very low-scoring game out there in Toronto as the Blue Jays, they've actually been your top over team in all baseball, 60 overs, 47 unders, and 5 pushes, but they get the job done against the Royals by a count of 4-2, and the Royals have been a very good under team this year, 45 overs, 64 unders, and 2 pushes, and for the Royals, you did have Salvador Perez go deep off of Mad Max Scherzer, 20th home run season. Scherzer gets up that home run in his 6 innings of work. Brandon Little gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning, but straight to Dominguez, 4 outside the bullpen squirrels. Jeff Hoffman, a scoreless inning, and for the Kansas City Royals, Noah Cameron gives up 4 runs in 6 1/3 innings. Regression hit him hard. Taylor Clark, he comes in for 1 2/3 innings, scoreless, and Steven Cruz, he gives up a hit, and he did not get a single out of the bullpen as he had, I believe, leave with a little bit of an ailment. So that was not great for the Royals. This was not great for the Cubs as they fall to the Baltimore Orioles by a count of 4-3. Orioles have been one of your best road under teams in all baseball, by the way, as for the Orioles, Tamayuki Sugano gives up 3 runs over the course of 5 innings, but the bullpen was able to do their part from there as Corbin Martin, Grant Wolfram, Yunier Cano, Keegan Aiken, all in a scoreless inning. By the way, for the Orioles, if you're looking at their road numbers, 19 overs, 37 unders, and a push, so 66% of the road games going under this far this season. And for the Cubs, Matthew Boyd was great, 7 scoreless innings, but bullpen is starting to experience regression as you did have a scoreless inning in this one from Taylor Rogers, but Ryan Brazier gives up 2 runs in 1/3 of an inning, and Caleb Theobar, he gives up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning as Gunnar Henderson took him deep, 3-run shot. He inherited a runner, 13th home run of the season there, and that turned out to be the difference in this one as the Orioles, they overcome a 3-0 deficit in the 8th inning to be able to get that one in. The Tampa Bay Rays completely shut down the LA Dodgers, 4-0 the final. Dodgers, bottom 10 team in the big leagues in terms of runs per game since the beginning of the month of July, and Blake Snell in his first start back, not awful, 3 runs allowed in 5 innings. They figured he would struggle a little bit. He was taken deep twice by Mr. Yandy Diaz, 19th and 20th home runs of the season. Then Jack Dreyer, he gives one up to Junior Caminero, 20th home run of the season. For Dreyer, gives up that home run in his inning of work. Alexis Diaz, Anthony Banda, both on this scoreless inning. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, Drew Rasmussen, 5 1/3 innings scoreless. From there, Edwin Uceta, 2 scoreless innings. Pete Fairbanks, a scoreless inning. And Garrett Clevenger was able to give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. For the Pirates, they got up 4-0 in this game against the Rockies, but then they got rocked 8-5 the final as Paul Skeens, he was the catalyst for the Pirates giving up a 6 spot in the 6th inning. He gives up 4 runs over the course of 5 innings, including a bomb, going deep off of him. Home run 13 of the season for Jordan Beck, and then Orlando Arcia. Oh, I see you getting your 3rd home run season off of Genesis Cabrera, who allowed that home run in 2/3 of an inning of work. Braxton Ashcraft, he was a load of Ashcraft, giving up 3 runs in 2 innings, and then you did have an out of the bullpen from Dory Moreta, and for the Pittsburgh Pirates, they did have a trio of home runs here, as it was home runs number 2, 3, and 4 of the campaign for Lovar Piguero. He goes deep off of Austin Gomber twice. For Gomber, he gives up 4 runs, 3 of which were earned over the course of 5 innings. And then Duggan Darnell gives up the other home run. He gave up that home run in his inning work. But you did have a trio of guys, Victor Vodnik, Juan Mejia, and Jalen Hill, all on his scoreless inning. And Seth Alverson, he threw 5 pitches and then he left the game. So that was not necessarily amazing for that bunch. And this was also a little bit less than amazing for the Washington Nationals. They fall to the Milwaukee Brewers, this by a count of 8-2. As for the Brew Crew, you had a good start here from Brandon Woodruff. 2 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings. He gave up a home run to Mr. Robert Hessel, his 2nd home run of the campaign. But you had Jake Irvin give up 5 runs in 4 innings, including a bomb to Christian Yelich, 21st home run of the campaign. From there, you'd had 3 innings out of Shunkusuke Ogasera. Hopefully I said that correct. He gave up 2 runs in 3 innings. Orlando Ribalta from there gives you a scoreless inning. Jackson Rutledge gives up a run in an inning. And for the Brewers bullpen, rock solid. Abner Uribe, Nick Mears, Jared Koenig. They're all able to cruise to a scoreless inning. And for the Boston Red Sox, they are all of a sudden getting their stuff together as they get the job done for a 7-3 win over the Houston Astros. As for the Astros, it was not the start that they were looking for out of Colton Gordon. He gives up 6 runs over the course of 4 innings, including a trio of bombs. Trevor Story, his 18th home run of the season. Abraham Toro, his 6th home run season. And Rami Gonzalez, his 8th as Walker Buehler. 3 runs allowed in 4 1/3 innings. Could have been better from him as Christian Walker gets his 15th home run season off of him. But from there, Justin Wilson and Aroldis Chapman both get a pair of outs out of the bullpen squirrels. Roy Alcala and out of the bullpen squirrels. Steven Matz, Garrett Woodlock, Jordan Nix. They all lend a scoreless inning. And for the Astros bullpen, it was solid. Caleb Bort, Stephen Okert combined for 2 scoreless innings. Hector Neris and Nick Hernandez, they were both able to give you a scoreless inning as well. And for the Cleveland Guardians, they find a way to get the job done against the Minnesota Twins. This by a count of 5-4 as Cleveland has obviously been one of your better under teams in all of baseball thus far this season, though at home, 27 overs, 27 unders, and a push, so that's been interesting to watch as Bailey Ober gives up 4 runs over the course of 5 innings, including a pair of bombs. For Cleveland, it was Mr. Jose Ramirez getting his 22nd home run of the season, and Daniel Schneemann, his 10th home run of the season for Tanner Bybee. Not an amazing start here, 4 runs allowed in 4 2/3 innings, including a home run to Matt Wallner, 14th home run of the season, but bullpen locks it down from there. Nick Enright was able to give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen squirrels. Hunter Gaddis, Matthew Festa, a scoreless inning. Eric Sabrowski, 1 2/3 innings scoreless, and you did have Pierce Ewell come in for 3 innings. He allowed 1 run along the way, so relatively solid there. And then this was pretty solid as well for the Detroit Tigers, 7-5. They get the job done against the Philadelphia Phillies as Zach Whelan and Dylan Wheeler. He did wheel and deal for 10 strikeouts, but also gave up 3 home runs, 4 runs in total over the course of 6 innings. One of them was unearned as Javi Baez took him deep, 11th home run season. Gleyber Torres goes deep off of Tanner Banks after that, his 13th home run season. Gary Carpenter, 18th home run season, and Cole Keith, his 9th. As for Mr. Banks gives up a home run in his inning of work. Matt Strom gives up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Jordan Romano, he goes for an out of the bullpen scoreless. And Max Laser, a scoreless inning. And for the Phillies, pair of home runs in this one. Terry Skubal gives one up to Nick Castellanos, 15th home run season, and Bryce Harper, his 16th home run season. Skubal, 10 strikeouts himself, but does give up 3 runs in 7 innings, including a bomb. So a pair of guys up for the Cy Young Award. Well, they didn't necessarily have the starts that they were looking for. Will Vest, he did not have the performance he was looking for. 2/3 of an inning. He gives up 2 runs, including one of those bombs. But Kyle Finnegan, 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless to be able to get a save for the team. And for the Mets, they were able to siphon all the runs that were supposed to go to the other New York team on this day as they win 12-6 over the San Francisco Giants. It was 5 runs given up in 3 1/3 innings by Kai-Wei Tang, making his first start for the Giants. Matt Gage was able to come in for 5 outs out of the bullpen squirrels. Spencer Bivens, he gives up 2 runs in an inning, and then Tristan Beck, 5 runs allowed over the course of 2 innings. For the Mets, only 1 home run in this one. Pete Alonso, 24th home run of the season. And Kodai Senga, well, he got hit around quite a bit as well. 4 runs allowed over the course of 4 innings, and he gave up a bomb as it was home run number 3 of the season for Dom Smith. Willie Adames, when it was a little bit too late, 17th home run season. That comes off of one Mr. Rico Garcia, who he gives up that home run, 2 runs in total over the course of an inning, but Reed Garrett, Gregory Soto combined for 2 scoreless innings. You had from there Tyler Rogers, Brooks Raley, both give a scoreless inning, and San Francisco Giants now 55-56 below 500, so less than savory there. Less than savory on this front, as well as for those that were looking forward to seeing the Bristol Motor Speedway Classic, well, you're going to need to wait until Sunday. This game was suspended with the Cincinnati Reds up by a count of 1-0, and you had a scoreless first for the Atlanta Braves, and for the Atlanta Braves, Austin Cox ended up making the start because the rain delay was so long, and he gave up 1 run, and yeah, so if you bet that one, you got pretty much washed out there. You got what you weren't expecting, and this game was also 1-0. The Chicago White Sox take down the LA Angels. This by a count of 1-0 as you had Aaron Savali throw a really nice game. 6 1/3 innings scoreless. From there, Brandon Eisert, 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Jordan leisurely gives you a scoreless inning, and for the LA Angels, Kyle Hendricks was solid. 1 run allowed in 5 innings. Can't complain there. Bullpen was fine. Brock and Roll Burke, Reed Detmers, Carson Fulmer, Ryan Zephyrion, all throw scoreless innings. Offense did absolutely nothing. They got 1 total hit in this game, and do have to have this up by midnight Pacific, 3 o'clock a.m. Eastern, so doing this as this game is still in the balance. We've got 2 games in the balance, but very late on, and looking like we know what we're going to get here. For the Diamondbacks, currently up 6-2 in the bottom of the 8th inning against the Athletics as Zach Gallen filled it up. Gave up 2 runs over the course of 6 innings. Andrew Saalfrank, he came in, gave the team a scoreless inning. Now it's up to Kendall Graveman, and this is a bad Arizona Diamondbacks bullpen, but what has been solid has been the offense. Alec Thomas, he goes deep off of Justin Cerner, 7th home run season. Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte, 21st home run season. That comes off of JT Ginn and Juice, and he gave up 4 runs in 4 1/3 innings, and he had 5 walks, giving up that home run. Justin Cerner, 1 1/3 innings, allows a solo home run. Ben Bowden, he was able to end 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and a scoreless inning out of Neil Nunez as well. And then for the San Diego Padres, they are currently trailing the St. Louis Cardinals by a count of 6-4. That game is currently in the 9th inning as for St. Louis, Michael McGreevy did give up 4 runs in 6 innings, and he did give up a home run to one Mr. Jackson Merrill, 8th home run season, but Randy Vasquez, who has been doing for a lot of regression, 5 runs allowed in 4 innings. From there, Jeremiah Estrada gives up a run in an inning, Wadi Peralta a scoreless inning, David Morgan 2 scoreless innings. Right now, Yuki Matsui is on in the 9th inning, trying to hold down the fort for them, and if you're looking trend-wise at what we're getting in Major League Baseball right now, it has been overall for the season quite an underwhelming season. 832 unders to 756 overs, so 52.5% of games are going under the total, and favorites, they're hitting at about 57%, 935 and 707 on the money line. If you look at just the last 7 days, this is with the final 2 games of the night still pending, favorites are hitting at about 58% over the last 7 days, 51 and 37 on the money line. Looks like that is going to be going to 52 and 38. Meanwhile, if you look at the totals, they have been relatively 50-50, with one game going under, one game going over right now in Major League Baseball. That should send it to 40 overs to 43 unders, with quite a few pushes along the way. I counted about 5. So that's what we're seeing in Major League Baseball right now, and that's what we all got on Saturday. Now we'll talk about the winners and losers of the trade deadline and Sunday's games with our good friend Tanner Kern of Draftkings right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man. As Tanner Kern, he does such an incredible job over at DraftKings, taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. I know he's doing a little bit of everything over there. He's getting geared up for football, does a great job on the basketball front. He's been doing some UFC a little bit lately as well. Heck, I'm sure that he got in on a hot dog eating when it came to the 4th of July as well. He does a little bit of everything, and he does so also well. And you're able to follow him on the old Twitter /X at his first and last name, Tanner Kern, and then an underscore. And Tanner, it's always great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Greg. Always a pleasure.
Always do appreciate you. And Tanner, we are just a few days removed from what was a very rambunctious trade deadline. And just what did you make out of it? Because while we didn't necessarily have the marquee of marquee guys moved, and Eugenio Suarez was certainly a big name, but I think that there was a lot of, shall we say, teams that improved/disimproved. And I think that there were a lot of teams that got really nice complementary and ancillary pieces at the deadline.
Yeah, I think obviously the biggest winner was the Seattle Mariners. Now, granted, it may or may not help them. We'll see if it actually pays off down the stretch. Obviously, Eugenio Suarez is just a massive piece that they needed, and I think it's going to add a lot of pop to that lineup and something, again, that they needed. Big loser, obviously, Boston Red Sox, not adding a first baseman, not adding that marquee secondary pitcher that they needed, really. So a lot of things happened at the deadline. I look at just the landscape of the American League right now. The Texas Rangers got better. The Seattle Mariners got better. The New York Yankees, while they did add a lot of pieces, obviously it did not help them last night because all those pieces helped them lose a baseball game. But, pretty much everybody in the American League got better in those playoff contention spots except the Boston Red Sox. So that was something that was probably my biggest takeaway from the day.
Yep, it certainly was big for the Seattle Mariners, and man, they were able to get a whole heck of a lot better at the trade deadline. But the team that they're facing off with right now, the Texas Rangers, they were able to get Merrill Kelly at the trade deadline, so that allowed him to start on Saturday, and that gave Jacob deGrom an extra day of rest for Sunday, and he's going to be going here. And how do you take a look at the Texas Rangers moving forward? Because they're a team that I think is very sneaky out there in the American League. They really got their offense going in July after it had been dormant all season long, and this feels like a team that could be a force in an American League that I think is completely open right now.
Well, I mean, we can't forget that this Texas Rangers team was in the World Series a few years ago, right? So Texas is a team that's coming along nicely at the plate. And when it comes down to it, and I think the biggest thing about playoff baseball, you need pitching to go out and win games, right? If you go into a 5-game playoff series in the divisional round or a championship series and you go 7 games there, you got Jacob deGrom on the mound, you got Nathan Eovaldi, and you got Merrill Kelly going 1, 2, 3 there. DeGrom's really found himself this season, 10-3, 2.55 ERA, 0.92 whip. He's been fantastic. Eovaldi is a big game pitcher. We know that, 9-3 with the 0.89 whip. And then adding Merrill Kelly too, that just takes them to a whole nother level. So when you got those guys going 1, 2, 3, they're going to be really hard to stop if they get into the playoffs. Now, the way the American League's shaping up right now, in those wild card spots, you got Yankees, Red Sox, Mariners, Rangers. I do think Cleveland is kind of on the out. So I think four spots, 3 teams are going to get in. If Texas gets in, it's going to pay off for them. They're going to be dangerous, but they still have to get in, and that's where I think Texas could struggle over the final month and a half of the season.
Yep, they certainly could struggle a little bit. Very encouraged by the fact that they have really done a great job in the bullpen, though. If you take a look since June 1st, they've been a top 5 team in terms of their bullpen ERA, so I think that that's pretty rock solid, and obviously they're a large favorite on Sunday, with it being Jacob deGrom against Logan Evans, but would you be willing to lay a minus 142, a minus 150 with the Texas Rangers, or are they still just a little bit too suspect to be laying that sort of a number?
I think a little too suspect, honestly, against a team like Seattle, because when it comes down to the offense, the Mariners do have the advantage there, especially now with the pieces that they've brought in. Cal Raleigh continues to have a great year, but adding Eugenio Suarez to the mix, this team is very deadly here. So I don't think I would lean towards the plus money with Logan Evans at 4-4 with a 4.2 ERA, 1.44 WHIP. He has got hit around a lot this season, but I do think this is probably a stay away game for me. Texas most likely wins the game, but I can't lay this big of a number against an offense like Seattle now with the pieces that they've added. We haven't seen it come to fruition yet. It's too early. But when this offense does start to come around, I think they're going to be very, very deadly.
Yep, absolutely. And I do think that for Seattle, it's going to be very lethal what they're able to get out of that dynamic duo. As a man that makes things all the more lethal on this podcast is Tanner Kern. He's joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And I know that you're out there in the lovely state of Massachusetts, so let's talk about the Red Sox and the Houston Astros here, with it being Framber Valdez and Lucas Giolito. Astros a very slight, like minus 110, minus 115 favorite. That total is 8. How do you take a look at the Red Sox, both in this game and them moving forward? Because for the Red Sox, they didn't make any like super splash moves or anything like that. A few ancillary pieces were picked up, but that's about it. But I mean, for the Boston Red Sox, a lot of people thought that they were selling when they traded away Rafael Devers, but ever since that move, the Giants went down the toilet bowl and the Red Sox have ascended. Yeah,
it's hard to really judge the Red Sox right now, because I think Craig Breslow in the Boston organization was probably the biggest loser at the deadline, but their defensive everything was they don't like to get risky. They're a very analytical team, and that's one thing that plays into it. I think if they would have went for it, they would have been looked at in a totally different light today than they are. But the thing is, Craig Breslow didn't want to mess with how the team is playing right now. He didn't want to take away from the major league roster. He didn't want to trade a guy like Jarren Duran. And so far, it's paid off. They win last night in comeback fashion. Obviously, this podcast is not coming out before the end of the game, but the Red Sox do have a 6-3 lead right now. They look good against Houston. That was an Abraham Toro home run, too, a first baseman that people wanted to replace. There were people that wanted them to go out and get a first baseman. They weren't able to do that. So the regular roster is playing well right now. I mean, this team is just consistently winning games. They made it through the really tough part of their schedule to open up the second half. So I commend them for that. With that being said, I do think the gas is going to come out at some point with the Boston Red Sox. I would still lean under on their live win total of 86.5 or 87.5, depending on what the number goes to today. But in this game, pending the Red Sox do get it done in game 2, I think Houston is the play here. You look at Lucas Giolito, he's not been great at home this season, especially if the Red Sox can go up 2-0 in this series. I think Houston's going to come out with a different level of energy, find a way to get it done. I just can't. It's really hard to bet on Lucas Giolito at home. I know he's figured it out, but I feel like the regression is coming at some point for him down the stretch. And this would be a spot where I stay away from the Red Sox.
Yep, absolutely. With the Boston Red Sox, I do think that it might be a little bit of a roll of the dice here with Lucas Giolito. He's been much better recently, but he's had a few blow-up starts, and just Framber Valdez has been so good. And I think that the Astros are an interesting team to look at as well, because it's a welcome-back situation for Carlos Correa, the fact that he's now back with the team. But I take a look at this Astros team, and it feels like they are a little bit of a paper tiger with that record. That said, I've been very impressed by the bullpen, and that bullpen has helped them win a lot of one-run games.
Yeah, the bullpen's been great. I mean, Josh Hader is just fantastic coming out. And anytime you got a guy like Josh Hader closing games for you, you're going to be in good shape. And the starting rotation, they got a lot of injuries there, but, Hunter Brown and Framber Valdez being the 1-2 punch is very deadly. And again, just a really good bullpen, as you were saying. This Astros team, the biggest thing that I look at with Houston, now you bring Carlos Correa back into the mix in a very weak American League. And this Astros team is consistently in the American League Championship Series. They're consistently playing for championships, and they still have a lot of experience now. Just the fact that you have a guy like Jose Altuve who's just consistently been there, done that, adding Carlos Correa, one of those big time pieces, back into the mix. It's a team with a lot of playoff experience, and they know how to get it done late. I know this is a new iteration of the old days, but they're still, that core piece is still there with those two guys right now. And I think it's going to lead to a lot of success in a really weak American League, where I see the Yankees totally falling apart. The Detroit Tigers, they are beatable. It's no secret. Their pitching is deadly in a playoff series, but this American League is wide open right now, and you have to look at Houston as one of the top contenders.
Yep, with Houston, they are a team that is very much a contender. Still have a few question marks with them, but when you've got that sort of bullpen pitching, that does make things very good for them. And Tanner, I want to get your thoughts here as to some of the teams that maybe didn't do a ton at the deadline. And I'm looking at the teams out there in the NL Central. The Reds picked up Brian Hayes, but that's not necessarily a big move. The Milwaukee Brewers actually traded away Nestor Cortez. And for the Chicago Cubs, I actually think that Mike Soroka is a relatively solid pickup. I know that a lot of people will disagree with me on that, but I actually think that that provides a little bit of value for them. But how'd you take a look at those NL Central teams and the fact that a lot of these teams didn't do much?
The Reds, I tip my cap for the Brian Hayes acquisition there, because that was one that, this is a team that you can make the case that the Reds kind of went for it a little bit to at least make a playoff push. I don't think they're there yet, and they're obviously 3.5 games back in that wild card race right now. They can easily make it up, but they kind of went in, they got better for the future without necessarily, saying we're giving up on this season. The Cubs, they were definitely one of the biggest losers at the trade deadline. I would rank them right up there with Boston. They did not do as much as they needed to. And then everyone else, I feel like the Cubs were the one team that, 1.5 games out of that Central Division, they could go for it. And they just did not do it. I think it's going to be a tight race down the stretch with the Brewers and the Cubs. And the Cubs, I think they believe they have what they have in-house to go out and win the Central Division there. But it's just kind of a wasted trade deadline by a lot of the teams in the NL Central, as you were saying.
Yep, absolutely. And I do think that it's going to be a really interesting race to be taking a look at moving forward. And we do have both of these teams in action on Sunday. Now, no total as we're doing this podcast between the Cubs and the Orioles because of the Wrigley Field win. But we do have the Brewers and the Nationals with a total of 8.5 with the Jacob Mizorowski, going for the Brewers. And they're facing off against the Washington Nationals as about minus 190 favorites. How do you take a look at this Brewers team? Because one thing that I've been pointing out on this podcast is that they've got some of the most demonstrative home and road splits with their offense at all baseball, and it does feel like for the Brewers they could have used a little bit more of a power bat at the deadline, but they just keep finding a way to be able to get runs up on the board, and the starting pitching has been really good for them.
Yeah, game one putting up 16 runs, just fantastic effort by them against the Washington Nationals. Game two, they look in full control right now, have another good offensive day. This is a spot where you got Mizorowski on the mound and you're getting minus 185. It's a little tough to play that. I would be leaning towards the run line here, potentially looking at the Brewers in the first half too. Obviously, we don't have those odds up right now, but that could be a decent play with him on the mound. Bottom line is, the Nationals just not a great baseball team. 44-65 right now, 21-32 at home. They kind of found a good stretch right before the All-Star break, but then, faded back into a spot where I wouldn't be betting on him much. So with Mizorowski on the mound, 2.70 ERA, 0.96 whip, going against a guy like Brad Lord, who just really haven't found a lot of consistency when it comes to walks, and he's not a big strikeout guy, I would definitely be taking Brewers on the run line here. On the road, getting those 9 at-bats, it's always a good spot to play a run line.
Yep, absolutely. And then I do think that this one is a very intriguing one as well, as we've got ourselves the Royals and the Blue Jays. And the Royals were a surprise buyer, picking up Mike Yastrzemski. They also picked up Randall Grichuk. And for the Toronto Blue Jays, relatively stood pat there. They did pick up Shane Bieber, but I just don't know what he's going to be able to give you this year. And for the Blue Jays, they're about a minus 140 or so favor with a total between 8 and 8.5. How do you take a look at this matchup between Chris Bassett and Seth Lugo? Because even though Lugo has a low ERA, I just feel like he's due for a lot of regression.
Yeah, and Chris Bassett too, side note here, really good at home, 2.65 ERA, much better home splits than the road splits, 6.45 ERA on the road versus the 2.65 at home. He's always a good spot to bet on when you're in Toronto. With Seth Lugo, kind of agree. I think we're due for a little regression here. You look at the split so far this season, the last 15 days, so 2 starts, got a 5 ERA in 17 innings, giving up 19 hits. 4 home runs as well. Opponents are batting 271 off him. Even the month of July, it wasn't necessarily the best month in the world for him. Was really good in June. I do see the Blue Jays winning this game, playing the minus 145. It's a little difficult here, especially just because I don't really want to lay that much of a number, but I would definitely look to the first half for the Blue Jays, knowing how good Bassett has been at home and how good this offense can be for Toronto.
Yep, absolutely. And I do think that we've got ourselves a lot of fun on this Sunday. We've got actually 14 games. Typically, we've got all 30 teams in action, but we've got one outage. But that said, is there anything else that you're going to be taking a look at with regards to the Sunday card that you're either going to be betting, or you just want to see how a team is performing post-trade deadline because they made quite a few moves?
I definitely want to see what the Yankees do on Sunday. If the Marlins can finish this off, the Yankees dropping this series is not going to be very good. So I want to see if the Yankees come out with a different level of energy. You are getting New York for minus 115. 15 with Luis Gil on the mound going into Edward Cabrera. The problem is with the New York Yankees, I just don't know what I'm going to get out of them. Without Aaron Judge, they are such a different team, and they're unpredictable and they're tough to bet on. But that's a team that I really want to focus on, especially in a series finale where they potentially could be down 2-0. It was a terrible loss in game 1 by them. I want to look at the LA Tampa Bay game. The Dodgers don't look really good right now. I know they got Yoshinobu Yamamoto on the mound, but just not finding a lot of consistency with them. I mean, they were very pitiful in game 2 of the series. It looked like they had been checked out. So many double plays, so much swing and miss. It just was not a good day for them. But those are 2 games that I'm definitely taking a look at. And then a fun one, I think, to watch is going to be the New York Mets and the San Francisco Giants. I really want to see San Francisco find a way to start winning some games with Rafael Devers. I don't necessarily see it coming here, but the Mets are in a very tight battle for the division with the Philadelphia Phillies. So obviously keeping an eye on them here. This is a game they should win, but I'd be looking to the over of 8.5 in the Giants-Mets game with Carson Whisenhunt against Frankie Montas.
Yep, that is certainly a game where starting pitching is not necessarily amazing in that one, so that'll be a fun one to watch, and it's always fun to have you aboard, Tanner. You do such a great job breaking down this wonderful game of baseball and really a little bit of everything over there at DraftKings, so let the good people at home know what's all on tap for you and how people are able to follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yep, so you can find me on DraftKings social pages every day, DK Sportsbook, DraftKings, and then you can also find me at Tanner Kern _ on Twitter, and then at Tanner Kern _ on TikTok, and then Ride the Line podcast, which I do with my buddy Grant Mitchell every Tuesday and Friday, heating up with some football talk on there. So make sure you check it out where you get your podcasts.
Absolutely. And Tanner, he does such an incredible job taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. And every single time he joins me, he learns such great insights. So a big thanks to Tanner for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this baseball Sunday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Tanner Kern. He does such a tremendous job over at DraftKings, taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights, and he did so once again today. So big thanks to Tanner for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this baseball Sunday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81. We're going to be going in Las Vegas station order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games. Any interleague games, those will be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So, but if we do start off with this first game, as we've got on the board 9:51, 9:52, the Milwaukee Brewers, they are on the road. They're facing off against the Washington Nationals as Brad Lord says, oh Lord, I'm getting another start for the Washington Nationals, and the Miz, Jacob Mizorowski, is on the bump for the Brewers, and the Brewers find themselves as pretty substantial favorites here, anywhere between -173 to -190, and between +152 to a +158 is that number on Washington. 8.5 is the total, over and under, both at -110, and for the Brewers, I was willing to go up to the mid-180s with regards to money line, but I'm not really looking as much at the money line. I'm looking a little bit more at the run line in this ordeal, and right now with that initial FanDuel opener to lay run half with the Brewers, you're going to be able to find that at a -105, and I'm willing to sign up for that. I was willing to go up to a -111 here, as for the Brewers on the money line, I only set them at a -178, but I mean, the Miz has been absolutely amazing. He's been just mowing them down with over 11 strikeouts per 9 innings. You do have to fear the command a little bit. That might knock him out of this start a bit early because he has been giving up over 3.5 walks per 9 innings, but he has been quite hard to hit as he's only giving up about 1 home run per 9 innings, and just feels like he's been getting better and better with every start. 2 runs or fewer allowed in 4 out of his last 5 starts, and for the Washington Nationals, they just don't hit the same when they're at home rather than away from home. For the Nationals, this has actually been a top 10 offense when they've been away from home, but they're only averaging in that neighborhood about 4 runs per game at home. Now, this has been a wackadoo series that has seen a whole bunch of runs, mainly by the Milwaukee Brewers. Getting over 22 hits on Friday was a lot of fun. And for the Brewers, it's not like this is some sort of power hitting team. They're in the bottom 8 in all of baseball in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis, but ever since Andrew Vaughn has gotten to town, he's apparently been the power source that the Brewers needed, as for Andrew Vaughn, on entering in the day on Saturday. In 17 games with the Brewers, he's already been able to slug out 6 home runs, entered with north of 425 on base. Don't know if that's necessarily sustainable, but he's been solid. Blake Perkins, since he's come back in the lineup, he's hitting above a 300. You've got just so many guys are able to move the line for this team. Bryce Terang, Sal Frelick, William Contreras, Christian Yelich, all above a 335 on base. Even with Reese Hoskins out, you've had a lot of guys being able to produce for this team, as Yelich has now been able to give you another home run in this series, 21 in total for the season. And for the Nationals, you have only 2 guys on the roster with more than 3 home runs at home thus far this season. James Wood, he's been able to give you 363 on base, 24 home runs, but he's been struggling recently. CJ Abrams, 14 home runs in total, but only 3 have come at home, sitting at 275. Josh Bell has been pretty solid with his bat as well since the beginning of the month of July, hitting nearly at 300. He's been able to give you a double-figure amount of homers. And Nathaniel Lowe, he's been giving you more than 3 home runs at home. He's been, though, hitting at 222 with his 15-plus bombs. You've had Brady Ellis be able to move the line. He doesn't necessarily give you a lot of power, but and he finds a way on. Same goes for Dalen Lyle, but this is the Washington Nationals bullpen that is right now dead last in the big leagues in terms of bullpenning rate. I mean, with Kyle Finnegan now traded, you've got the likes of Andre Lara, Jackson Rutledge, Ryan Lotus, Orlando Rabada, like so many guys that are rocking north of a 5 ERA. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, they're a top 5 team in terms of bullpenning rate since June 1st. Now, that may have went up since the beginning part of the series because of the crazy game that we saw on Friday, but that said, you still have a lot of guys who have been able to lock it down for the team. Trevor McGill, Ebner Uribe, throw in their DL Hall, Nick Mears, Aaron Ashby, all these guys were able to give you a sub-3 ERA. So I do think that for the Brewers, they should be able to go out there, dominate this game, and I do think that Brad Lord is actually going to give you a halfway decent start. In the role of a starter, he hasn't been too bad for the Washington Nationals. He pretty much was their most trustworthy bullpen piece prior to them making him a starter. He's able to give you a solid 5 innings for Lord thus far this season. He's been able to just induce soft contact. He's only given up 5 home runs in 74 and a third innings, 3.27 ERA, only getting about 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, giving up in the neighborhood about 3 walks per 9 innings, so fielding pennant is approaching 4, but that said, I do think that the Brewers go out there, get the job done. Some I told it at 8.6, so at the 8.5, I like the over, and the Brewers up to a minus 110 on that run line. 953, 954 on the betting board. It is the Giants on the road against the New York Mets. One of Frankie Montas goes for the Metropolitans, and you have Mr. Wisenon, Carson Wisenon, going for the San Francisco Giants. Right now with the Mets, you're going to be getting them anywhere between minus 147 to minus 157 on the money line. It is plus 128 to a plus 132 on the Giants. 8.5 is the total. Over is minus 120, and the under is even. If you're looking to lay run half with the Mets, you're going to be finding that between a plus 130 to a plus 140. I would need above a plus 140 to be able to take a shot here. I set my money line price at a minus 146. If we can go down a penny or two, and I do think that I'm going to be able to find a minus 145 when it's all said and done, I'm going to be in on the Mets, despite the fact that Frankie Montas, well, he has not been great, to say the least. For Frankie Montas, even in his minor league rehab starts, this guy was posting a 12 ERA. Overall for the season, 5.46 ERA, fielding pennant more around a 4.89, 1.8 home runs allowed per 9 innings. Not getting a lot of swings and misses with about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Has allowed 4+ runs in 3 out of his last 5 starts, but now gets to go up against the San Francisco Giants team that, ever since they added Rafael Devers, things have went down the toilet bowl for them. They're 25th in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. They do average about 4.4 runs per game away from home compared to 3.7 at home, but I mean, you trade away Mikey Stremski, that hurts this offense a little bit. Devers, who they picked up at the deadline, 4 home runs in his first about 40 or so games in a Giants uniform, hitting below 235. William Adames has all of a sudden been able to find it, 8 home runs in the last 30 games, but too little too late there. Matt Chapman has given you about a 340 on base with 15 home runs. And then Casey Schmidt, I mean, it's for like a 245. Don Smith gets on base, but he doesn't necessarily give you a lot of power. So lots of issues with this Giants lineup. And on the other end for the New York Mets, it's a bit of a top-heavy lineup themselves. Francisco Lindor, Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, Brandon Nimmo, all with at least 19 home runs. For Alonso, he got home run number 24 of the campaign yesterday, but we have seen his on-base percentage slip to about a 350. You've got Juan Soto in that neighborhood about a 385 with regards to his on-base, so he's still doing a relatively solid job there, but it's a bottom of the lineup that has been hurting them. Mark Vientos is starting to come alive, but he's still only hitting about a 235 for the season. The entirety of the catcher spot has been a big giant mess for them as well, so that has been really hurting them, but at the same time, too, you've been able to have Jack McNeil give you about a 350 on base. That's been helpful. You still have a few young guys like Tyrone Taylor and company that you need to get a little bit more out of their bats as well, but when it comes to this bullpen for the Mets, even though since the beginning of the month of June, they've been in the bottom 10 in terms of ERA. They did add some reinforcements at the trade deadline, which I think are going to be very beneficial to them because Edwin Diaz has been lights out. He has been rock solid for the team all season long, but now you add in there Ryan Helsley, a guy with a sub-325 ERA. Blew some saves towards the beginning part of the season, but he's been solid. Gregory Soto doesn't do anything for me, but Reed Garrett, a sub-3 ERA, getting back Brooks Raley, I think is big as well. And for the San Francisco Giants, when fully healthy, this was a top 3 bullpen in terms of ERA in the big leagues, but now you trade away Tyler Rogers, you trade away Camilo Doval, and Ryan Walker now has north of a 4 ERA. Spencer Bivens has been giving up the runs. I actually do like Osei Buto, they got from the Mets, ironically enough. He and Joey Lucchesi, a sub-335 ERA. Same goes for Randy Rodriguez. So I do think that the bullpen is going to be able to do a relatively solid job here. That said, you just have a lineup that I think is very suspect for the San Francisco Giants. So if you could get a minus 145 or better, which I think we should be able to, I'm going to be in on that Metropolitans money line. And with this total, I'm in on the over. So I told it at 8.7, 955, 956 on the card. The Pittsburgh Pirates are on the road against the Colorado Rockies. Brandon Blaylock goes for the Rocks, and Mitch Keller goes for the Buccos. The Pirates do find themselves as favorites of between minus 155 and minus 165, between plus 133 to a plus 143 is that number on Colorado with 11.5. The total under is minus 120, and the over is even, and I'm going to be in on this total under. So I tell 11.1 for the Pittsburgh Pirates. They just remain dead last in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. They entered into the series averaging 2.9 runs per game away from home. Obviously, it's seen a little bit of a surge because that's what Coors Field is going to do for you, but I mean, that's still, if you do the math, they're averaging fewer than 3.4 runs per game away from home, even with this outburst, and you have only 3 guys on the roster with over 5 home runs this far this season. Andrew McCutchen, Brian Reynolds, and O'Neill Cruz, and just a lot of guys that are not hitting for average. Jack Swiniski, Cruz, who I mentioned before, Alexander Canario, Henry Davis, Jared Trollo, all these guys hitting below a 220 right now. It's absolutely sickening. You've been able to have Luis Figueroa actually hit about a 285, so that's nice. And for the Colorado Rockies, Mickey Moniak has been hitting really well at home this far this season. For Moniak, overall, he's been able to give you 16 home runs. 10 of those bombs have come at home, so that's something that's been very helpful for this unit, but and you still have a lot of struggling bats as they're looking at Austin Nola, Brenton Doyle, Orlando Arcia, a lot of guys hitting at 225 or lower. Ezekiel Tovar coming back should be able to help them out. And Jordan Beck has been able to give you double-figure amount of homers. Hunter Goodman is up to 19-plus bombs, so he's been solid as well. And while these guys have been able to do a relatively okay job, the bullpen of the Colorado Rockies has really fallen down the toilet bowl. No longer do they have Jake Bird, so they're going to be relying a lot upon Victor Vodnik, who does have a sub-4 ERA. Juan Mejia has been able to give you a few okay innings, but he's been regressing. Seth Halverson has an ERA that's hovering right around 5. Now they're going to be looking to Anel Shavili and company with all the trades, and these are guys that are just not cutting it right now, especially considering this team is 50 games below 500 for the Pittsburgh Pirates. This bullpen hasn't been awful. They do trade away David Bennar at the deadline, so that hurts them a little bit, but you still have Isaac Madsen, Dennis Santana, a pair of guys with a sub-3 ERA. Having Chase Shogert on the injured list does hurt them, but they picked up Genesis Cabrera, who in a Pirates uniform thus far has been able to give you some relatively okay performances. He's a guy that's able to go multiple innings, was a starter throughout the beginning part of his career, so that helps out this bullpen a little bit, but I do think that for the Pittsburgh Pirates, you're not going to get a lot of offense here, but I do think that Mitch Keller does enough to be able to get the job done because he hasn't been a strikeout pitcher this year. He's been getting fewer than 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, but is really limiting the walks, 2.5 walks per 9 innings, just 10 home runs allowed in 127 innings, so he's giving up right around about 0.7 home runs per 9 innings. He's rocking a 369 ERA. Fielding independent is relatively in line with that. I think that he's going to be able to give you a better start than Brandon Blaylock, who Blaylock has actually been solid on the road. He's had a few okay starts thus far this season, but in his one start at home, I mean, he had one start where he gave up 13 runs, 12 which were earned against the San Diego Padres. That was obviously bad, and that's why his ERA is currently a 7.09. Fielding independent more around about a 531, but I mean, he's not a strikeout guy himself. He's getting 4.4 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's giving up home run and a half per 9, so I do think that he's going to get tattooed by a Pirates team that still isn't great with their lineup. Right now, to lay a run half with the Pirates, that's right around about minus 108, minus 110. I was willing to go up to a minus 115 here and did set my total 11.1, so here at the 11.5, I'm also in on the under. 957, 958 on the card. The St. Louis Cardinals are on the road against the Slam Diego Padres. Dylan Cease is on the bump for the Padres. Andre 3000 Pelante is on the bump for the Cardinals. The total on this game, it is 8. The over is minus 120. The under is even. Seeing an 8.5 pop up. That under is minus 120 and the over is even for the Padres between minus 173 to minus 190 is that money line price. If you're looking to lay a run half, that is going to be a plus 120, and you're getting about a plus 152 to a plus 158 on the Cardinals. And I did set the Padres on the money line at a minus 166. If we can get closer to about a plus 122, plus 125 on this run line, which when it's all said and done, I do think that we should be able to. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on that San Diego Padres run line for Andre 3000 Pallante. He just has not been great this far this season. He's really a guy that you would think it would be better with his command, with how few strikeouts he gets. 5.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. Now he's been better this year. For his career, about 3.5 walks per 9 innings, down to about 2.8 walks per 9 innings this season. But his hard contact is up from 0.6 home runs per 9 innings last year to 1.1 home runs per 9 this year. He's given up 5+ runs in 3 out of his last 4 starts. So he is really on a rough run. And for Pallante, when he has been on the road, he has been giving up about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings. And for Dylan Cease, if you look at the advanced numbers, he should be doing for some positivity. He's got a 4.79 ERA, despite the fact that among qualifying National League starters, he is right there at the top in terms of strikeouts per 9 rate. 11.6 strikeouts per 9 innings, but has been killed by the 1.3 home runs and 3.6 walks per 9 innings. But fielding a pen is more than a full point lower than his ERA at a 3.65, and he does get to go up against a St. Louis Cardinals lineup that has not been slugging the ball. They're in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. If you look at their overall offense, they're slightly below average, but it's nothing like absolutely egregious. That said, who's really just carrying the mail for this team? Alec Burleson has been able to hit for 14 home runs and get 285. Brendan Donovan, it's right around about a 280 as well. Ivan Herrera has been off and on injured. They've got him back, and that's all because he's giving you over a 350 on base. Wilson Contreras leading the way in terms of power. He's up to 15 home runs, right around about a 340 on base, but I mean, it's been a rough year for Nolan Arenado, and now he's injured. He's on the injured list, so that doesn't really hurt this team too much, and we've had Victor Scott deliver 29 stolen bases, but he's only hitting about a 230. And for the Padres, massive upgrades with this lineup. Ryan O'Hearn, Ramon Laureano, between the two of them, 28 home runs. Both of these guys give you north of a 340 on base. That is big reinforcements for a team that they're still rough at the catcher spot, but picking up Freddie Fermin, way better than Martin Maldonado and company, who are hitting right around about a 200. Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado, these guys combined 37 home runs this season. Both give you above a 350 on base. It's a Padres team that has been in the bottom 10 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game, but bringing in Ramon Laureano and heck, even Freddie Fermin, like I said, that's an upgrade at the catcher spot. This should be a better lineup moving forward. And for the San Diego Padres, they are number 1 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Now they add Mason Miller to that bullpen, but I mean, so many guys like David Morgan, Andre Marjon, Jason Adams, Jeremiah Estrada, all give you a sub 285 ERA. Robert Suarez has blown a few games lately, but I mean, still, this is a very rock solid bullpen. And for the St. Louis Cardinals, I mean, they've been a top 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA. They do trade away Ryan Helsley, but it's still a solid bullpen. The likes of Jojo Romero, Kyle Leahy, Riley O'Brien, Matt Savanson, these guys have been able to give you a sub 3.5 ERA. So it is a circumstance where I did set my total at some 0.8. Here at the 8 to an 8.5, I'm actually going to be willing to take a shot on the under. Keep in mind, San Diego, very much a pitcher-friendly ballpark, and at a plus 122 or higher, I'm in on that Padres run line. 959, 960 on the card. The Boston Red Sox do play OC Houston Astros. Framber Valdez is on the bump for the Astros, and Lucas Giolito is on the bump for the Red Sox. The Red Sox do find themselves as a slight underdog, as you're going to be getting them between a minus 108 to a plus 104. Meanwhile, minus 109, minus 115, that number on Houston. It is a total. Overs at minus 115 to minus 120. Unders even to minus 105. And for the Astros, I set them at a minus 113. So I'm going to be willing to take a shot on them on the money line for Mr. Framber Valdez. This guy has been able to do a really rock solid job all season long, and I think that he does a nice job once again here against the Boston Red Sox. 262 ERA, backed up by 287 fielding independent, half a home run allowed per 9 innings, 9.5 punch-outs per 9 innings. So he has been all sorts of amazing for this team. He has given up 0 or 1 runs in 4 out of his last 5 starts, going 6+ innings in all 5 of those starts. And for Lucas Giolito, ever since really the beginning of the month of June, he had that one rough start against the LA Angels where he got completely destroyed. He's actually been a pretty presentable picture. We're starting to see a little bit of regression with him. 4+ runs allowed in 2 out of his last 3 starts. Both of those starts came on the road though. 380 ERA compared to a 420 fielding dependent, as his strikeout stuff is way down. He's only getting about 7.9 strikeouts per 9 innings. But to my point about Lucas Giolito, first few starts he was just looking all sorts of rough, and he was getting torn and tattered. But ever since June 10th, he has been able to, in his last 9 starts, be able to supply this team with a 217 ERA, 382 fielding dependent, because he has given up in this time span right around about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, but he's been keeping the walks down. He's been down about 2.6, 2.7 walks per 9 innings in this run, and he is backed up by a Boston Red Sox bullpen that does rank in the top 7 in all of baseball in terms of bullpen ERA. Aroldis Chapman is an ageless wonder. under a sub-175 ERA. He is mowing them down with over 13 strikeouts per 9 innings. And then additionally, you've got a lot of mix and match guys who have been able to do a great job in this bullpen as well, as you've got Greg Weiser, Justin Wilson, along with Chris Murphy, even Oriel Cullo they picked up from the Minnesota Twins, Brandon Bernardino. All these guys give you a sub-325 ERA. And for the Red Sox, this team is in the top 3 in the American League in terms of runs per game, as they have actually ascended ever since they got rid of Rafael Devers, with Tyler Abreu wilding out 20 home runs, and he's hitting about a 250. Trevor Story, he's really been able to help himself out. Still not a great on-base percentage at a 297, but 18 home runs. Don Rafael, Alex Bregman, 14 home runs apiece with Bregman. Now give you about a 370 on base. Jaron Duran has been able to pick it up. Abraham Toro, Rob Refsnyder, these mix and match guys, ring above at 260 as well, so they're giving you production. And then on the flip side for the Houston Astros, they pick up Carlos Correa, who's not hitting for any sort of power, but he's been able to hit at 265. You've got an Astros team that they really don't draw a lot of walks, but they do have quite a few guys that'll be able to supply some boom for this team, as you've got all these guys between 14 and 19 home runs this year. Christian Walker, Yanier Diaz, Jose Altuve, Isaac Paredes. Paredes really the lone guy above a 345 on base, and him landing on the injured list certainly hurts this team. So bringing in Carlos Correa helps hold down the fort there, especially with the fact that Jeremy Pena has been dealing with a little bit of a hamstring injury as well. He was out for the game on Saturday. I think that he's going to be out on Sunday as well, but Cam Smith has been hitting right around about a 255. You've been able to get some good production out of Jake Myers, who's been hitting above a 300 as well. He's currently landed on the injured list as well. We'll see if he's going to be able to return at some point. So they've had to mix and match in this bullpen with some of these guys like Zach DeZenzo has been seeing a few at-bats for this team. Cooper Hummel has not been anything great for this bunch, but they have been able to find a way without these guys, and Mauricio Dubon has been able for a little bit more average as well. But the specialty of this Houston Astros team has been the bullpen. You've got the Bryans, Brian King, Brian Abreu, Steven Oker, Josh Hader, Bennett Sosa. You go down the list of guys that will be able to give you a sub-3 ERA, and it's been absolutely wonderful. And I do think that that's going to be just enough for the team to be able to get the job done out there in a little bit of a hitter's ballpark out there in Boston. I do think that the runs are going to be flying a little bit more. So I told it at 8.2. I like the over, and I'm willing to lay up to a minus 112 on this Astros money line. 961, 962 on the card. The Royals are on the road against the Toronto Blue Jays. Chris Bassett as the hook, line, and sinker for the Jays, and Seth Lugo is on the bump for the Royals. And the Royals do find themselves as an underdog of anywhere between plus 118 to a plus 125. Meanwhile, between minus 134 to a minus 144 is that number on the Blue Jays. 8.5 to 8 is the total. On the 8, the over is minus 120. The under is even. On the 8.5, under is minus 120, and the over is even. And for the Jays, I did set them on the money line at a minus 152. I'm going to be willing to lay this with Seth Lugo. Even though he's got a really good ERA, he's been able to post up an ERA that hovers right around about a 3. The fielding independent numbers are very concerning to me, as he has been giving up 1.4 home runs per 9 innings. He's getting fewer than 8 strikeouts per 9 innings. So go along with that 3.03 ERA, a 4.47 fielding independent. And for Seth Lugo, a lot of his great starts thus far this season have come at home as well. When he has been on the road, he's been a little bit more shaky, as Kansas City has just been playing very pitcher-friendly. In general, we have seen that with their results thus far this season, but that said, his ERA goes up to about a 3.44 away from home. Away from home, he is posting up more like 1.7 to 1.8 home runs per 9 innings, and for Chris Bassett, he's been able to do a really good job in terms of not giving up a ton of hard contact. 2.2 walks, 8.9 strikeouts per 9 innings, albeit about 1.25 home runs allowed per 9 innings, 4.24 ERA. Fielding independent is hovering more in that neighborhood of a 4, but when Bassett has been in Toronto, he has been at his best, as he is 8-0 with a 2.65 ERA. At home, he's given up more like 1 home run per 9 innings, and he is backed up by a bullpen of the Blue Jays that just find themselves in the top 8 in terms of ERA. You've got the Killer Bees, Braden Fisher, along with Brandon Little, who have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Chad Green, along with Jeff Hoffman, the guys that you thought were going to be the headliners for this bullpen have not been, but Uriel Rodriguez, a sub-3 ERA. Whenever he's been out there, you've been able to get some good production as well out of Nick Sandlin, but he's been off and on injured all season long, and he's landed back on the injured list, so it made it all the bigger that they picked up Louis Varland from the Minnesota Twins. And for the Blue Jays, this team has been absolutely raking at home this far this season. On the road, they've been one of your lesser offenses in all of baseball. As for the Toronto Blue Jays this far this season, 5.3 runs per game at home compared to fewer than 4.1 runs per game when they have been away from home. So this has been a very interesting split, as they currently currently lead the American League in terms of runs per game at home. That is headlined by the fact that Vlad Jr. is back up to right around about a 400 on base. He's done a good job of being able to supply 15-plus home runs for the team. Addison Barger along Bo Bichette, both of these guys hovering between 14 and 15 home runs apiece. They do have Alejandro Kirk currently dealing with a little bit of an injury. He's a 300 hitter, but you've been able to get some great average as well out of a guy that I really like in Early Clement, who's been able to about a 275. George Springer has been one of the heart and soul pieces of this team. 380 on base. Currently is on the concussion injured list. He should be out for this one, and I think that he's going to be out for about another series or two, so want to be monitoring that, but I do think that this team is still really coming alive with regards to their bats. And for the Kansas City Royals, they did pick up Mikey Stremski, who went deep for a home run in game number 1 of this series. They also got a little bit of help with Randall Grichuk. Grichuk is not necessarily too much of a power hitter, though, so they're going to be relying a lot upon Salvador Perez, who's up to 18 home runs, and really since the beginning of the month of July, he's been able to give the team 8-plus home runs, and he's been hitting above a 300, so that's been nice to see. Vinny Pasquantino, Bobby Witt Jr., these two guys have done a nice job moving the line. For Witt, he's hitting at 285 with 16 bombs and 29 stolen bases. Pasquantino, 325 on base with 18 home runs, but not a lot of power outside of that. Likes of Kyle Isabel, Drew Waters, Jonathan India are all hitting between about a 242, and now you do have Isabel hitting at 257. They were about at 250, but none of these three guys give you any power. And then Jack Caglione, just a miserable disappointment for the team as far this season. He's on the injured list. He has not missed. He's hitting a $147. Nick Lofton is hitting at 211. John Rave has been hitting a $177. So it is still a rough team with that regard, but you do have a bullpen that ranks at the top 10 in terms of ERA. You've had Lucas Sturcedge, Carlos Aceves, both give you a sub-3 ERA in the back half of that bullpen. John Schreiber has been solid. He's been able to give you a sub-325 ERA as well. They do have Steven Cruz currently dealing with a little bit of injury along with Daniel Lynch, but Hunter Harvey coming back is big for this bullpen as well. That said, I do think that Lugo gives up a good amount of runs in this one, so I did somebody tell it at an 8.7. I like this 8 over, and I do like the Blue Jays on the money line. 963 and 964 on the betting board. It is the Minnesota Twins on the road against the Cleveland Guardians. Joey Cantillo is on the bump for Cleveland. Jose Urena is on the bump for the Twins. Right now I'm seeing a total of 8, but this is when they were projecting Simeon Woods Richardson, so these are old numbers before they had the switch from Richardson to Mr. Urena. It was a 8 total, and the Guardians were about a -150 to a -160 favorite, plus 128 to a plus 135. That number on Minnesota, but I set a total to where in an 8.5 or less, I'll be in on the over, and I'd be willing to go at a plus 112 or higher on this Guardians run line, which I think we should be able to get both of those numbers. I would need at least a plus 175 to take a shot on the Twins, who are trotting out their guy, and Mr. Jose Urena, who's right now got a 540 ERA with 2.5 home runs at 4.9 strikeouts per 9 innings. His fielding independence is a 636, and this is team number 4 of the season for Jose Urena. I think the last time we saw a guy play for 4 different teams in a season was Dave Kingman in the mid-70s, so it's been a while, and you've got a guy in Mr. Joey Cantillo. He's a little bit of a Rick the Wild Thing Vaughn for this team, as he's been able to get 11.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, 4.14 ERA, fielding independence right on line with that, about 1.2, 1.3 home runs allowed per 9 innings, but the 5 walks per 9 innings is a little bit concerning, and really a lot of these Guardians pitchers have been giving up quite a few walks, but that said, he's backed up by the far better bullpen in this one as well. You still have a lot of guys like Eric Sobrowski, Cade Smith, along with, as well, Nick Enright, who will be able to give you a sub-325 ERA. They have Emmanuel Clase. They didn't trade him away, but he's right now dealing with a little bit of an injury. Hunter Gaddis has been a little bit of an issue for this team, and what has been a bigger issue for the Cleveland Guardians is the fact that the bottom of the lineup just has not produced. You've got Jose Ramirez with 22 bombs, hitting at 300. Steven Kwan is hitting at 285 at the top, and Kyle Manzardo is starting to come on. 18 home runs, but was not hitting for average for much of the season. He's up to about a 240, which is passable, but you've got so many guys on this roster right now that are hitting below 200. Nolan Jones, Brian Rocchio, Bo Naylor, Jonathan Rodriguez, John Kensey Noel when he's been up at the big league level, David Fry, Austin Hedges. Man, you just need to be getting a little bit more there. Even Gabriel Arias, who's sitting at 232, it's not like his on-base percentage has been anything amazing. Meanwhile, for the Minnesota Twins, this is just a completely gutted team that is built around Byron Buxton. 23 bombs, 343 on base. That's been pretty rock solid, but no longer do you have Carlos Correa, Harrison Bader, guys like this. So that means that you're going to be looking at Brooks Lee, who's been able to hit about a 250 with 10 home runs. Willie Castro, 10 bombs. He's been able to give you about a 335 on base, but they had to move him as well. So he's out of the fold. You've got Ryan Jeffers, who's been able to about a 255. Cody Clemens, he's hit for 12 home runs at 180 at-bats, but he's hitting about a 225. And for this bullpen, you had the likes of Danny Kaloum, Yohan Duran, Louis Varland. They were all posting up a sub-225 ERA. All 3 of those guys are gone. Brock and Roll Stewart, he got traded away to the Dodgers. So now you're looking to the likes of Justin Dopa, Michael Tonkin, Cole Sands. A lot of guys are posting up over a 4 ERA. You have not gotten anything out of Cody Funderburk thus far this season, so that's a big giant issue. So, and at 8.5 or less, I'm going to be in on the over 9 or higher to the under end for the Guardians, plus 112 or higher, looking at that run line, plus 175 or higher, we'll be looking at the Twins. 965, 966 on the card. The Chicago White Sox are on the road against the LA Angels. Jack Kachanowicz is on the bump for the Alos. Sean Burke goes for the White Sox. The White Sox are an underdog of anywhere between plus 115 to a plus 125. Minus 135 to a minus 140 is that number on Los Angeles. 9.5 is the total. Unders between minus 110 to a minus 115. Overs minus 105 to a minus 110. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the White Sox. I set this at a plus 121. This is just a big giant fade of Jack Kachanowicz. Jack Kachanowicz should not be gracing an MLB mound right now. I have no idea how this guy continues to get starts and how the Angels can't find a way to replace this guy, but he is not built for the big leagues right now. Maybe in a few years, but 5.75 ERA, 6.2 strikeouts, and 4.7 walks per 9 innings, and 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. He can't get strikeouts, he can't command the ball, and he's giving up hard contact. What does this guy do well? And you've got a bullpen that's been absolutely terrible for the LA Angels as well. They're currently in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Their top reliever and Hunter Strickland is currently on the injured list. Now, I will say, you've got Kenley Jansen down to about a 3 ERA, and Brock and Roll Burke has been able to give you a sub 3.5 ERA as well, but just a cavalcade of different guys that are not getting the job done. It's just absolutely mind-numbing. Carson Fulmer's right around about a 4 ERA, and then you've got the likes of Connor Brogdon, Ryan Zephyrian, Sam Bachman, so many guys posting up an ERA that is well above a 4, and for the LA Angels, this is very much an all-or-nothing team. You've got a lot of guys that are just able to match the ball, like Joe Adell, setting fire to the rain with 21 home runs, but his on-base percentage is back to about a 300. Taylor Ward, 25 bombs, up to a 306 on base. That's a little bit more passable, but Logan O'Hoppe, very O'Hoppe about the 18 home runs, not so O'Hoppe about the 281 on base. Even Mike Trout, who's got 19 home runs, he's sitting at 235, albeit a 362 on base, but Jorge Soler, 293 on base, 12 home runs. Luis Renifo has been miserable this year at 288 on base with 5 home runs and 4 stolen bases. I don't know what he does well, so that's been a little bit of an issue. And for the Chicago White Sox, this team is in the bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. Just really a lack of power for this team. Andrew Benintendi leading the way with 14 home runs. He's been able to about a 240. Miguel Vargas has been able to give you 13 bombs. He's hitting about a 230 though, and you've got just a poo-poo platter of different guys. They're hitting below at 220 as you've got Luis Robert picking it up a little bit, but Brooks Baldwin, Michael A. Taylor, Josh Rojas, Joshua Palacios, Finney Capra. So many guys are just not giving you anything whatsoever. And then this is a bullpen that is also in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of their ERA. Brandon Iser, Jordan Leisure, Grant Taylor. These guys have been giving you a sub 4.50 ERA for most of them. Steven Wilson, Mike Vasil have been pretty solid in this bullpen, but the long guys have been all sorts of miserable as well. So it is a very interesting circumstance. But with Sean Burke, even though his fielding independent is not necessarily savory, he's been able to keep things out in front of him thus far this season. A 4.17 ERA. He does need to tone down the home runs. He's giving up about 1.4 home runs per 9 innings. And Burke is not necessarily a high strikeout guy himself. He's a little bit better than Jack Kachanowicz, but he's getting about 7.9 strikeouts and 4.1 walks per 9 innings. 481 fielding dependent. Do think that the totals went a little bit too far because this White Sox team is not necessarily great with their offense, but I'm going to be taking a shot on the under, set my total 9.3, and with the White Sox plus 122 or higher, I'm in on their money line. 967, 968 on the betting board. It is the Walker, Texas Rangers, and they are on the road against the Seattle Mariners. Logan Evans goes for the M's, and Jacob deGrom is on the bump for the Rangers, and the Rangers are finding themselves as pretty good-sized favorites. You're getting them anywhere between a minus 132 to a minus 150 in the neighborhood of plus 122 to a plus 127. That number on Seattle. 7.5 is the total. Under is minus 120, and the over is even. And with the Rangers, I did set them at a minus 139, so right now seeing a lot of minus 132, minus 138 or so out there. I'm going to be willing to lay the money line for Jacob deGrom. He just has been so dominant this far this season. Even though his strikeout numbers are down from his career numbers, this guy's just been absolutely mowing them down. 255 ERA compared to a 336 fielding independent. He is giving up about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, but 9.5 punch-outs per 9 innings. He has allowed 3 earned runs or fewer in all but 1 out of his last 18 starts, and that was his most recent start against the LA Angels. A little bit of regression was doing there, as he has now given up 7 home runs across his last 5 starts. That's a little bit concerning, going out there to Seattle, where it's pretty much the most pitcher-friendly ballpark by just the metrics that you're going to find in all of baseball. That should be able to help out. Now, he does have to face off against a Seattle Mariners lineup that obviously has all sorts of lethality now that you bring in Eugenio Suarez, you bring in Josh Naylor, and you combine combine that with big dumper Cal Raleigh, who's up to 42 home runs this season, but Randy Arozarena, he's up to 22 home runs, 350 on base. This guy has had a double-figure amount of homers over his last 35 games. He's starting to eat up. Julio Rodriguez is hitting at 250. Ori Polanco is hitting at 250. Both of these guys, 17-plus home runs this season as well. Dom Canzone has been a nice find with about a 340 on base. He's got a little bit of pop in that bat. J.P. Crawford is hitting about a 260 as well, and his on-base percentage is more around a 360. And for the Rangers, it seems since the beginning of the month of July, is averaging about 5.4 to 5.5 runs per game. But it's been a miserable season for so many of these guys, like Adolis Garcia, Marcus Semien. They brought in Rowdy Tellez, ironically enough, from the Seattle Mariners. All these guys are hitting in that neighborhood about a 225. Jake Berger as well, but they're all of a sudden starting to find it now. Kyle Higashioka was able to go deep again yesterday. He's been hitting above at 350 since the beginning of the month of July. You've been able to get good production out of Corey Seager with over a 400 on base over the last 30 days as well. And for the Texas Rangers bullpen, they're a top 3 team in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA since the beginning of the month of June. You've got a lot of guys that have come out there and just held down the fort for this team. Robert Garcia, Hobie Milner, they bring in Danny Kalum now. You're able to throw in there Chris Martin. All these guys have been able to give you an ERA below a 3, along Shawn Armstrong as well. And for the Seattle Mariners, the top guys in this bullpen have been amazing. You've had Trent Thornton boop the bed on this team a few times, but likes of Edward Bizardo, Matt Brash, Andres Munoz, Gabe Spire, these guys have been able to give you an ERA below a 365, actually below a 265, I should say. But I do think that for Logan Evans, going to be a little bit of a rough start here. For Logan Evans, he's done a nice job in terms of not sustaining massive damage, but at the same time, he's not too much of a strikeout guy, and he's doing for a bit of regression, in my opinion. A 4.22 ERA, 5.04 fielding dependent. He's giving up 3.2 walks and 1.5 home runs per 9 innings while getting just 7 punch-outs per 9 innings. He has given up at least 6 runs in 2 out of his last 4 starts. He has been all or nothing. He either gives up 2 runs or fewer, or he gives up 5+. You really don't get a lot of in between. I do think that you might get a little bit more in between here, which is why I set my total at 7.3. I'm in on the 7.5 under, but with the Rangers willing to lay up to a minus 139 on this money line. 969, 970 on the card. It is the Dodgers on the road against the Tampa Bay Rays. Joe Boyle, Boyle rules, is on the bump for the Rays, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto goes for the Dodgers. Dodgers between minus 190 to minus 207 favorites. Between plus 170 to plus 180 is that number on the Rays. 8.5 is the total. Over is minus 120, and the under is even. And I set the Rays money line at a plus 155. I'm going to be willing to take a shot here. If you're looking to lay a run half with the LA Dodgers, you're still laying about a minus 120 to a minus 125. Joe Boyle had a little bit of a rough go of it in his start against the New York Yankees. Had a few good innings, and then he got a little blaze by one Mr. Cody Bellinger, but I still really like this guy's stuff and his overall upside. 2.82 ERA, 3.46 fielding independent, albeit much of it came out of the bullpen, but he's getting 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Even when he was out there for the A's last season, he was getting 10.5 punch-outs per 9 innings. Just had absolutely no command whatsoever, but this guy's a flamethrower that has a lot of upside. And on the other side, for Yamamoto, he's been really the best pitcher for the LA Dodgers thus far this season that has been consistently out there because Glasnow, Blake Snell, all these guys have been injured, but 263 ERA, closer to 299 fielding independence. His walks per 9 rate is up to a 3, and he's been beginning to experience a little bit of regression. 3+ runs allowed in 2 out of his last 4 starts. For Yamamoto, he's been able to do a nice job in terms of mitigating hard contact, giving up 0.8 home runs per 9 innings, and this is a Tampa Bay Rays lineup that has been really regressing over the last few weeks. The Brandon Lau injury has been taking a lot out of them, but you still have Junior Caminero doing a nice job of just being able to supply for the team. 28 home runs. He's sitting in that neighborhood about a 250, and then Yandy Diaz, 20 bombs, 345 on base. He has been magnificent. Jonathan Aranda is giving you just below 400 on base. You've got guys who are able to steal bags for the team. They do trade away Jose Calabria, but Chandler Simpson, 32 stolen bases. He's hitting darn near 300. Need a little bit more, likes of Taylor Walls when he's been out there. Someone like a Cameron Minzer, Christopher Morel, guys hitting at 230 or lower. They've revamped the catcher spot with trading away Danny Jansen, but I do take a look at this Rays bullpen as well. It is a top 10 team in the big leagues with regards to ERA. Just so many guys are able to come out there and give you good innings. Pete Fairbanks, Eric Orzay, Garrett Clevenger, Manuel Rodriguez, they've all been able to give you an ERA below a 3, and they did add a little bit at the deadline to be able to help out as well. Brian Baker, this guy that they've had for a few weeks. Griffin Jackson, I don't think helps them out at all, but they added Griffin Jackson for the LA Dodgers. This has been a team that has been in the bottom 10 in all of baseball in terms of their bullpen ERAs. They did add at the deadline themselves because they've got Kirby Yates, Tanner Scott, both on the injured list. Neither of these guys have been very good, though. They had Brock and Roll Stewart, who's been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Jack Dreher has been actually really good in this bullpen, and now they've got Blake Trinan off the injured list as well. A pair of guys that are able to give you a sub-350 ERA. Alex Vesia has been solid as well, but this is also a Dodgers team that since the beginning of the month of July, they're actually in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of runs per game. The Max Muncy injury has been killing them, and Mookie Betts just has not been himself this year. Sitting at 235 with 11 home runs. You just expect a little bit more there. Teoscar Hernandez has been whipped for some relatively good power with supplying 16 home runs, but his on-base percentage is below 300. Andy Paz has been able to give you 19 home runs. He continues to be rock solid, and Shohei Ohtani has been the constant for this team. Over 370 on base, 36 plus home runs. Will Smith has given you north of 400 on base as well, but I do think that in this case, the Rays are being a bit undervalued. I think that Joe Boyle goes out there, gives you a relatively good start, and for Yamamoto, I think they experiences a little bit of struggle against this Rays lineup along with that bullpen of the Dodgers. So semi-total at an 8.8. I like the over and the Rays money line. 971, 972 on the card. The Detroit Tigers are on the road against the Philadelphia Phillies. Cortez for Sanchez is on the bump for the Phils, and Charlie Morton goes for Detroit. It is the total. Over is minus 115. The under is minus 105. And for the Phils, you're going to be getting them between minus 180 to a minus 192, and between plus 156 to a plus 167 is that number on Detroit. And I did set my total here at an 8.6, so I'm going to be in on the over. For Charlie Morton, he has had a little bit of a rough run of it this season. He's giving up about 4 walks per 9 innings, a little bit over 1.4 home runs per 9 innings. Overall for the season, he's got a 5.41 ERA, but if you look at things when he has been away from home, that ERA does go up to about a 6. And for Christopher Sanchez, he's been giving up 2 runs or fewer in 8 out of his last 9 starts, but did hit a little bit of a roadblock in his last start. Went out there and he gave up 4 runs to the Chicago White Sox. That's a little bit less than tremendous. Now still having a 286 fielding independent, 9.5 strikeouts, and 2.3 walks per 9 innings. You absolutely love what he's able to bring to the table, but I do have a little bit of fear with the bullpen that is backing him up. You bring in Yohan Duran, who's been amazing as a closer, but how are you going to be able to get the ball to Yohan Duran? You've got Matt Strahm, who's been able to give you a sub-3.5 ERA, or Ryan Kerkering. He's been able to give you about a 3 ERA. He's been able to do a really good job this season, by the way. And Alan Ragnall, in his few appearances, has actually impressed me a little bit as well, so that's been solid. But the likes of Seth Johnson, Tanner Banks, these guys are not so reliable. Jordan Romano has been absolutely terrible. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, the team is averaging over 5 runs per game at home, with Kyle Schwarber leading the way, 37 home runs, 376 on base. Bryce Harper has really been able to provide power since coming off the injury list, and he's up to a 375 on base with a home run every about 20 or so at bats for the season, but that's going way northward right now. You've got the likes of a Trey Turner, who's been with about a 285 with 11 home runs. Alec Bowman's moving the line, hitting about a 280. And JT Realmuto, since the beginning of the month of June, has been hitting above a 310. He's actually been quite impressive for this team. And then you take a look at this Detroit Tigers squad, and you've got a bunch that is in the top 8 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. Getting Kerry Carpenter back off the injured list is big. He's getting a home run every about 15 to 16 at bats, hitting at 265. Riley Green is up to a mark of 26 home runs, 270 average. Spencer Torkelson not hitting for great average, but a 330 on base, 23 bombs out of him. And then you've got the likes of Gleyber Torres, Zach McKinstry, Javi Baez, Dylan Dingler, all at least a 265 for this unit. So I do think that for the Tigers, they're going to be able to get to the Philadelphia Phillies. Now for the Tigers, that's the beginning of the month of June, bottom 10 team in the big leagues with regards to their bullpen areas. You've had Will Vest, Brant Herter be reliable for the team with a sub-3 ERA, but we have seen a downward tick for the likes of Chase Lee, Tyler Holton, especially our good friend and Tommy Canley. All these guys have been able to give you a ERA above a 350, so that's been a little bit of an issue. They do pick up Kyle Finnegan, but he's been having a little bit of a rough run at things from the Nationals as well, so I think that you get a high-scoring game, so by total at 8.6. I like the over, and for the Tigers, I think that they have a chance to slug their way to victory. I set my money line price at a plus 152, so looking at that money line of Detroit, and I'm going to be taking a look at the over. 973, 974 on the card. The Miami Marlins play host the New York Yankees. Luis Gil is on the bump for the Yankees, and Edward Cabrera is on the bump for the Miami Marlins. For the Marlins, you're going to be finding them anywhere between a plus 103 to a minus 105, in that neighborhood of minus 108 to a minus 115. That number on New York, and the total on this game, it is 8. Over is between minus 110 to a minus 120. The under is anywhere between even and minus 110. And I set this where pretty much any plus number, I'd be willing to take a shot on the Marlins. I needed at least a plus 102 to be able to take a shot there. So I'm going to be in on the Miami Marlins as long as they say an underdog on this money line. For Edward Cabrera, he's been able to do a really good job of just honing in with regards to command. He's always had amazing stuff, but what has been ailing him ever since he came into the big leagues was the fact that he was just so wild. As for Edward Cabrera, his strikeouts per 9 rate, that has been hovering right in the neighborhood about a 9 thus far this season, down from his career numbers of 10, but the walks per 9 rate for his career before this year was more around about 5. That's down to about 3.2, and as a result, he's posting up a 3.35 ERA, and he's been very rock solid when he's been at home this far this season, as well as Miami, one of the most pitcher-friendly ballparks that you're going to find in all of baseball. And for our good friend, he has been able to do a nice job posting up a 3 ERA with 5 home runs and 57 innings at home this far this season. And for Luis Eel, who knows what you're going to be able to get out of him, because even when he's fully healthy, he has a whirling dervish, and he's going to give you strikeouts, but he's going to give up a lot of walks as well. A career mark of over 4.5 walks per 9 innings. His minor league rehab starts, he made 4 of them in total. He was getting 15 strikeouts per 9 innings, but also 4.4 walks and 2.5 home runs allowed per 9 innings. So I don't think he's going to give you a lot of length. And for the New York Yankees, yeah, you pick up David Bednar, and you also pick up Camilo Duvall, but these guys pooped the Bednar a few days ago in this very circumstance. You just have not been able to get a lot of production out of these ancillary guys. Luke Weaver has not looked like himself since coming out the injured list. Devin Williams has been a disaster. Dan Mell's posting up a sub-3 ERA, but yeah, it's not been great to say the least. And currently you've got Aaron Judge on the injured list. Now, Giancarlo Stanton has actually been able to quite well since coming back for the New York Yankees. He's been able to give you 8+ bombs and less than 125 at-bats, so that's been pretty rock solid for them. Does not run the bases very well, but you know what? He's been hitting for a little bit of power, and that's what they signed him up for. Ryan McMahon, I don't know if he's going to be too much of an upgrade for the team. He's hitting 225 overall this season. He has not hit away from Colorado pretty much throughout his entire career. You've got Trent Grisham, though, give you a 350 on base. He's up north of 15 home runs. Cody Bellinger, 9 home runs in his last 21 games. He's hitting at 280. You've been able to have Jazz Chisholm, since coming off the injury list, give you above a 375 on base in that time span. He's up to 15+ home runs as well. And then for the Miami Marlins, this team is in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis, but Augustin Ramirez is up to 17 bombs. You've got Kyle Sowers above 20 home runs. He's giving you a 375 on base, and these young guys have stepped up, and they've done a nice job of finding way on base. Liam Hicks has given you a 355 on base. Xavier Edwards at the top is hitting darn near 300. Dave Myers has seen some regression, but he's still hitting at 250 for the season. And under the radar, the Miami Marlins have been a top 8 bullpen in terms of ERA ever since the beginning of the month of June. You've actually got a lot of guys out there that have won out and have given you some really good performances, like Lake Picard, Tyler Phillips, Ronnie Enriquez, Anthony Bender. These are all guys that are currently giving you an ERA below a 3.5. I recognize that Calvin Fauché has been pooping the bed a little bit along Valentin Belozo, but this is still a bullpen that has been pretty presentable. So I do think that in this spot, you've got a little bit of value with the Miami Marlins as long as you're able to get plus money. So I did set my total at an 8.1. So here at an 8, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the over. But with the Marlins, any sort of plus money, I'm in on the money line. 975, 976 on the card. The Baltimore Orioles are on the road against the Chicago Cubs, as you've got Mr. Colin Ray saying hip hip hooray to another start, and Brandon Young goes for Baltimore. Baltimore is a pretty sizable underdog, between plus 158 to a plus 166, between minus 180 to minus 194 is a line for the Chicago Cubs. Right now, we're not seeing pretty much any totals out there, except for I'm seeing an initial FanDuel opener of an 8.5. Over is even money, and the under is minus 120, and that makes the Cubs run line a plus 118. I'd be willing to sign up for that Cubs run line. I was willing to take a plus 115 or higher, and I did set my total at 8.3, so at an 8.5, I would be in on the under. Now, if we go to an 8, at an 8, that is my buy point on the over. As right now, in terms of the Wrigley Field wind situation, it's going to be blowing a lot more directionally in a little bit at about like 7 to 8 miles per hour. It helps out the pitchers a little bit, but it's not like a quantum help to these pitchers, so that's been figured in. And you got a guy in Colin Ray that pitches a lot of contact. He's been only getting about 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, giving up 1.6 bombs per 9, 425 ERA to a 489 fielding dependent, on a little bit of a rough run, 10 runs, 9 of which have been earned in his last 2 starts. And you've got a guy in Brandon Young who was really good at the minor league level this season for the Baltimore Orioles, but at the big league level has not been able to put it together. It's looked a little bit better recently with 300 runs or fewer allowed in 4 of his last 5 starts, and he is getting about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 2 home runs and 3.9 walks per 9 innings. That is very much less than tremendous, and he is backed up by a bullpen that is now without Felix Bautista. They trade away a lot of their good pieces at the deadline, though they really didn't have a lot of good pieces to start with. Gregory Soto and Sir Anthony Dominguez, these guys were not amazing to begin with, but now you're looking at these likes of a Grant Wolfram. You're probably going to be having to throw out there some of these young guys if they get a Matt Bauman back, and it is just a mix and match bullpen right now, to say the least. As right now they're probably going to be looking at Kate Stout, Yunier Cano, guys with a over 4 ERA, Alvin Rodriguez, and for the lineup, and it's a lot of mix and match right now. You've got Jackson Holliday, who's been pretty reliable. reliable. He's hitting for a 260 with 14 home runs. Gunnar Henderson, he's been able to supply 13 home runs. He's hitting above a 280. And for Tyler O'Neill, he's back injured. He's day-to-day. He might land on the injured list. They're not going to be getting back Ryan Mountcastle until next week. Dylan Carlson has been a disappointment. He's been hitting below a 215. And Colin Cowser, he has been able to hit for some power with 9 home runs, but he's not giving you any sort of average. Jordan Westberg has been really one of the biggest constants for the team since coming off the injury list. I also get back Adley Rutschman, who's had an underwhelming season as well. And then for the Chicago Cubs, this team has been so lethal with their offense, 1 through 9. You just have a whole bunch of guys that are matching. Nico Horner is not necessarily giving you homers, but I need to get some man on base for these home runs to turn into 2-run shots and 3-run shots with the way that he's hitting above a 280. And then you've got Pete Armstrong, Seiya Suzuki, combining for 53 home runs. Crow Armstrong hitting about a 270, C.A. Suzuki more around about a 250, and then Michael Busch, 356 on base, 21 home runs. Kyle Tucker, 380 on base, 18 home runs. You've had Carson Kelly give you a home run every about 18 at-bats. He's giving you about a 370 on base. So these guys have been very rock solid with that regard. And then for the Cubs, this bullpen has been about league average ever since the beginning of the month of June. We've seen a little bit of regression there, but still have a lot of these guys performing really well. Drew Pomeranz, Daniel Palencia, Brad Keller, Caleb Theobar, all below 3 ERA along with Ryan Brazier. Chris Flexen is starting to see some, shall we say, regression. And Ryan Presley is just a guy that has never really impressed me either, but against this lineup, I do think that they should be able to go out there, get the job done at an 8.5 or higher. I'm in on the under. And for the Cubs, plus 115 or higher, I like that run line and wrap things up with 977, 978 on the betting board. It is the Arizona Diamondbacks, and at the road they're facing off against the Athletics. As we do know that it's going to be Eduardo Rodriguez going for the Arizona Diamondbacks. As of right now, it's old to be determined who's going to be on the bump for the A's. This is a game that is presently off the board. The initial opener was looking like it was going to be Jack Perkins who was going to be going for the Athletics, and if that's the case, I will be setting the Arizona Diamondbacks as a very slight favorite. I did set them at a -1.3, so -112 or better. I'm going to be looking at them on the money line. If I can get above a plus 142, I'd be looking at the run line as well, and then I did set a total to where a 10 or less. I'm going to be in on the over, a 10.5 or higher. I'm going to be in on that under, as I did set my total more around about a 10.2 to 10.3, depending upon how the bullpen situation goes on Saturday. But if you do indeed get Jack Perkins, they've utilized him, the A's have, in a little bit more of a long role. They've been throwing him out there for like 3 innings to piecemeal together the back half of a game, and thus far he's been able to do a relatively good job of doing so. He's made 8 appearances, 19 and 2/3 innings, so I think they could give you 4, if you're really, really lucky, 5 innings here. He's got 8.7 strikeouts to 3.2 walks per 9 innings across his 19 and 2/3 innings. It's a very small sample size, but so far so good out of him, and even if he doesn't start, he's going to contribute in this game in some form or capacity. And when he was down at the AAA level for Las Vegas, out there in the PCL, which is really hard to have an ERA below 4, 2.86 ERA. So, that's very impressive. And for Rodriguez, I think that he is doing for a lot of positivity. As for Eduardo Rodriguez, right now he's posting up a 5.63 ERA, but that fielding dependence is a 4.64, a full point lower. He is giving up 1.7 home runs per 9 innings, but he's still mowing them down with 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Now, this has been a rough run for him, to say the least. 18 runs, 17 of which have been earned, given up in his last 4 starts. The team has lost each of his last 5 starts, and they provided 4 runs of support or fewer in every one of them. But now you're in Sacramento, where the runs have been flowing like wine all season long, and for the Arizona Diamondbacks, no question about it, without having in there Eugenio Suarez along with Josh Naylor, this is a little bit of a gutted lineup, but Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte still giving you a home run every about 14.5 at-bats. He's been supplying a 375 on base. Corbin Carroll since coming off the injury list, hitting just above 200, but overall for the season, he still has 21 home runs. I think he'll find it sooner rather than later. Now you're looking to some of these young guys, along James McCann, the veteran catcher, who's been actually hitting quite well. Adrian Del Castro is someone that, when he saw some at-bats last season, was pretty solid, hitting above a 3. Small sample size of 32 at-bats this season, but I think that he's going to be able to give you a bit of something. I'm not too concerned about the Arizona Diamondbacks lineup. I'm concerned about the bullpen, but I'm concerned about both of these teams' bullpens, because for the Athletics, they traded away Mason Miller, and that was really your top relief piece. Now you've got a whole bunch of guys that just we're not giving you too much. Elvis Alvarado is actually down below a 3.50 ERA. Sean Newcomb has been relatively solid, as well as Michael Kelly, but I think these guys like Osvaldo Ito, Justin Sterner, Ben Bowden, Hogan Harris, got a lot of guys that are posting up an ERA above a 5, and same goes for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Shelby Miller has been pretty much the lone trustworthy reliever for the team all season long, and then you've got the likes of Jalen Beeks, Kendall Graveman, Kevin Ginkel are all posting up north of a 5 ERA. John Curtis with 2 S's has not been great, and for the A's, this has been a pretty solid lineup, as you didn't have this team really trade away any of their their bats at the deadline. You've got Nick Kurtz, Brent Rooker, both with 23 home runs, and Kurtz is getting a home run every about 11 at-bats. It's been absolutely incredible. He's hitting a 300. Jacob Wilson has been hitting above a 300, but he's been off and on injured over the last few weeks, and we've been starting to see a little bit of regression out of him. Lawrence Butler not hitting for a ton of average, but he's up to 15 home runs and 17 stolen bases. Shea Langoliers, Shea has banged along Tyler Soderstrom for 19 home runs apiece, both hitting about a 255, so I do think that you're going to get a relatively high-scoring game here. I did set my total to wear a 10 or less. I'm on the over 10.5 or higher. The under end for the Diamondbacks made them a slight favorite at a minus 113, willing to go up to a minus 112 there, plus 114 or higher. I do like the Athletics in this spot, and that'll wrap things up for the Sunday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review, and I'm coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season. That means I'm coming at you once again tomorrow. Thank you.